Nice to meet you, Grandma, said a 10-year-old boy who suddenly appeared, claiming to be my grandson. But that couldn't be possible. After all, my grandson had passed away along with my daughter during childbirth. As if to add to my shock, the boy uttered a startling fact. Grandma, you know. After hearing the boy's story, I felt as if all the sorrow of the past 10 years had been overturned. And I exploded with anger towards those who had been deceiving me, deciding to take action against them. It all began 10 years ago. Listen, Mom. I'm getting married. My daughter Vanessa, who was 25 at the time, reported with a smile. What kind of person is your partner? He's from an old, well-known family in Arizona. I was a bit surprised by the sudden news, but my daughter and I held hands and rejoiced in this unexpected engagement. Later, when her boyfriend came to greet me, I was quite impressed. I'm always indebted to Vanessa. This is a specialty from Arizona. Please, help yourself. Vanessa's boyfriend, Daniel Brown, had a polite and refined air about him. I thought to myself, as expected of someone from a distinguished family, I can entrust my daughter to him. Vanessa will surely be happy. At that time, I truly believed this from the bottom of my heart. However, after my daughter moved from our home in Alaska to his family home in Arizona, things started to look gloomy. The letters that used to arrive once a month gradually decreased to once every 2 months, then once every 6 months, and the last letter that arrived had what looked like tear stains on it. About a month after I stopped receiving letters from Vanessa, she called me one night. But something was clearly wrong with her. Mom, I'm sorry for calling so late at night. What's wrong? Are you crying? My daughter's voice was trembling, and I could hear her sobbing over the phone from time to time. Furthermore, you know, the moment Vanessa started to speak, I heard a dull sound as if something was being hit, followed by an ear-piercing scream. What's wrong? Vanessa. I desperately called out to her, but the phone had already disconnected. What on earth was happening to her? Was Vanessa all right? I couldn't sit still, I was so worried. As I was debating whether to call her back, I received another call from her. Hello, Vanessa. What happened? Sorry, Mom, it's nothing. She answered in a cheerful, joking voice, as if her tearful voice from earlier had been a lie. Confused by the sudden change, I was left dumbfounded. Are you sure you're okay? I'm fine. Really, it's nothing. Bye. All I could do was stare at my smartphone, stunned by the ended call. There were other eerie incidents as well. While I was relaxing at home, my smartphone suddenly rang. It's a message from Vanessa. When I saw the content of the message, I couldn't believe my eyes. My daughter had sent just one line, I am being watched. Huh? What's this? As I was about to reply to ask about the situation, Vanessa's message disappeared, replaced by a system message saying message was unsent. And after that, nothing else was sent. With such creepy incidents piling up, I was increasingly worried about my daughter. However, Daniel's family home was in Arizona, far from Alaska. It's not a distance I could easily travel. I need to at least find out what's happening to Vanessa. Thinking that there was no point in just worrying, I decided to try calling my daughter. "Please, answer the phone." After it rang a few times, I heard a voice on the other end. "Hello, Vanessa." "Oh, it's you." To my surprise, it was Daniel who answered the phone. I had a bad feeling about this, and my voice trembled. "Why do you have my daughter's smartphone?" "I'm sorry. Vanessa is in the bath right now, and when I called out to her, she couldn't hear me over the shower." "I see." However, considering the recent circumstances, I couldn't easily believe Daniel's words. "Is Vanessa doing well?" "She's very well. I'm having trouble keeping her from running out of the house." He laughed while giving such a meaningful response. The conversation continued with trivial topics after that, but the crucial subject of my daughter was avoided. I had no choice but to make up a reason and end the call. If Vanessa was really being monitored by Daniel and couldn't contact me freely, what should I do? Every day, I racked my brains trying to figure out how to help her. Then one day, I received a call from Daniel saying, "Vanessa is pregnant. She seems to want to return to the house in Alaska to give birth, but Alaska is a bit too far, isn't it? It's not good for her body, and I want her to give birth at a hospital near our place." When told that, all I could do was nod in agreement. In exchange, I asked that I be able to contact her until her due date. The next day, I received a call from my daughter after a long time. "Mom, it's been a while." "Vanessa, are you all right?" "I'm totally fine. I'll do my best to have a cute baby." Her voice was unnaturally cheerful, which made it feel even more like an act. "Vanessa, are you still being watched right now?" "Yes. Right now, Daniel and I are thinking of names for the baby. What do you think would be good?" "Oh, but we can't really say without knowing if it's a boy or a girl, can we?" At that moment, it clicked for me. Even during this phone call, Daniel was watching her to make sure she didn't say anything unnecessary. "I'll contact you again when we know the baby's gender. Bye-bye." After the call ended, I held my head in my hands. What should I do about this situation? Will Vanessa be all right? Even so, I was able to contact her every day without fail until her due date. However, on the day of her expected delivery, all contact from her ceased. After that, a week passed without being able to reach Daniel or his parents by phone. Thinking that the worst might have happened, I left a message on Daniel's answering machine saying, "I'm worried about my daughter, so I'm planning to visit." Soon after, I received a call back from him. "Mother-in-law, please listen calmly." According to him, my daughter had passed away along with the baby during childbirth. And they explained that they couldn't contact me for the past week because they were busy with the funeral. As I stood there stunned by this sudden news, Daniel delivered another blow. With Vanessa's death, our connection to you has also ended. Please don't contact us anymore from now on. After saying just that, he hung up unilaterally. What on earth is going on? Unable to keep up with the sudden turn of events, I tried contacting Daniel one last time a few days later. I just want to visit her grave. However, Daniel yelled at me in a terrible rage. I told you not to get involved anymore. Don't call again. So I had no choice but to give up. Unable to even collect my daughter's bones, I spent my days as if my soul had been drained. Time passed, and on a day exactly 10 years after I was told Vanessa had died, a visitor came to my house. The doorbell rang, and as I dragged my heavy body to open the door, there stood a boy of about 10 years old, accompanied by a man in his 40s. Who might you be? Nice to meet you, Grandma. Who are you? I shouldn't have any male relatives who would call me Grandma. As I was confused, the man next to the boy politely began to speak. I apologize for the sudden visit. My name is Richard. I'm a servant of the Brown family. The Brown family? You mean the family in Arizona that my daughter married into? Yes. Miss Vanessa was very kind to me. At Richard's words, the boy pouted and said, "That's not right, Richard. My mom is still alive, isn't she?" What do you mean? I didn't understand what was happening, but I invited them into the house to hear the details. This young Master Noah is your grandson, ma'am. Is that so? I'm glad he's alive. And Vanessa is safe too. Amidst the mix of surprise and joy, Richard and Noah were looking at me with very serious expressions. Grandma, you know. The shocking truth I was told afterward made me tremble. And unable to contain my anger, I decided to take revenge on Daniel and his parents. After that, I asked Noah and Richard for help in gathering evidence of Daniel and his parents' misdeeds, and prepared to confront them at their house. I flew from Alaska and landed in Arizona, where Daniel's family home was located. When I arrived at their house and pressed the intercom, Daniel and his parents appeared, looking flustered. What are you doing here? I told you we've cut ties with you. Go home. They tried to turn me away at the gate despite my long journey. Just then, Noah and Richard, whom I had contacted beforehand, arrived. What's going on? Who are these people? This is your grandmother. Really? I'm so happy to meet you, Grandma. Let's invite her in. Daniel glared at Richard as if to say, "You're blabbing too much," but Richard pretended not to notice and let me into the house. Do you have a memorial photo of Vanessa? Well. As Daniel stumbled over his words, Noah guided me, saying, "It's this way." Thank you, Noah. Oh. That's strange. I don't see any photos of Vanessa. I tried to get more details from the visibly shaken Daniel about what happened from when my daughter gave birth until her supposed death, but unable to bear the situation, Daniel's father shouted, "Enough of this." Furthermore, Daniel's mother hysterically screamed, "Just leave already. This is not a place for commoners like you." But I won't back down here. I'm taking my daughter back, so please return her to me. I glared at them and firmly declared, suppressing the anger welling up inside me. She's not here anymore, is she? How are you going to take her back? I already know that my daughter is alive. and it seems she's been treated quite well. Then, I took out a hidden voice recorder and played a certain audio. Vanessa's voice crying out, "Stop. I'm sorry. I won't disobey anymore," echoed throughout the room. Along with dull sounds of something being hit or kicked, the voices of Daniel and his parents laughing could be heard. Surprised that I had this recording, they opened their eyes wide. "How? It seems you have some idea about this." When I directed a sharp gaze at them, they averted their eyes and fell silent. To drive the point home, I scattered some photos on the table. They showed my daughter, emaciated and chained up in a basement room. "How do you have such things? They must be photoshopped." Daniel, though his voice was trembling, tried to respond defiantly. At that moment, a certain person spoke up. "I gave these to her." Daniel and his parents gasped, staring intently at Noah. They probably never imagined that the boy they had raised so preciously would betray them. Here, I decided to reveal the details of this revenge plan. Noah and Richard knew everything about what was happening inside the Brown household. Daniel may have a good outward appearance, but he's actually a tyrant at home, always taking an arrogant attitude towards Vanessa. The reason you chose Vanessa in the first place was because you thought that quiet girl wouldn't defy you, right? Of course a wife should be obedient. Daniel shrugged and spoke as if it were obvious. His attitude made my blood boil, and I clenched my fists tightly. Moreover, the mother-in-law confessed, we were planning to have him marry a young lady from another distinguished family, but since Daniel brought Vanessa home, we had no choice but to keep her. After the marriage, perhaps because she was a commoner's daughter, Vanessa was bullied by her mother-in-law every day and was trying to find a way to contact me for help. However, it seems they thwarted her attempts at every turn. Eventually, unable to bear the constant surveillance, my daughter tried to escape, but unfortunately, her pregnancy was discovered. With a body that could barely move, she somehow tried to return to Alaska, but judging that she wouldn't have enough strength for such a long journey, she decided to give birth in Arizona. Then, Vanessa was said to have died while giving birth to Noah, and was actually locked up in the basement by Daniel and his parents. Why did my daughter have to go through such a terrible ordeal? My voice shook with anger and sadness. However, the father-in-law sneered, saying, "Once she bore an heir, that woman was of no use to us." Their attitude showed no sign of remorse at all. Moreover, I heard that Vanessa was treated like a servant and was harassed by other staff members besides Richard. Although Richard wanted to stop it, he had many other responsibilities and had no choice but to let them continue their behavior. For these 10 years, I've been recording everything that happened in the Brown household to clear Miss Vanessa's resentment. I helped with that too. When I said I wanted to help my mom, Richard lent me his strength. Noah and Richard had been working to help my daughter. They thought it was necessary to first let me know that Vanessa was alive. So Richard lied to the Brown family and came to my house in Alaska with Noah. Then the two of them revealed that Noah was my grandson, that Vanessa was alive, and handed over the evidence recordings. That was the course of events. After hearing this explanation, Daniel and his parents burst into laughter. So you came willingly into enemy territory. What a fool. We could just capture you now and throw you in the basement with that woman. Daniel approached me, speaking threatening words. I've already called the police. It's too late for anything now. Ha! The local police danced to our tune. No help is coming for you. Don't underestimate the power of the Brown family. I thought you might say that, so I contacted the police headquarters. Surely they can't ignore this. They trembled at the mention of police headquarters, clearly shaken. They ordered in a high-handed tone, "Stop this right now," but I glared back at them. Don't you understand what you've done? Don't think you'll be forgiven after tormenting someone's daughter for 10 years. Realizing that I wouldn't back down, they turned pale and hastily began to grovel. We can't have this become a police matter. It would tarnish the Brown family name. Please, anything but that. I'm begging you. Tell them it was a mistake, please. I couldn't care less about your family's reputation. Accept your punishment quietly. As I coldly declared this, they collapsed to their knees. Just then, the police arrived, and Daniel and his parents were restrained while wailing and crying. At that moment, Noah tugged at the hem of my clothes. Now you can remove Mom's chains. He said this while looking straight at me and handing me a key. I nodded deeply and hurried down to the basement with a police officer. When we opened the door to the room, Mom. The moment I saw my daughter for the first time in 10 years, tears welled up in my eyes. I'm sorry it took so long to come and help you. Let's go home together. As I gently spoke while removing her chains, Vanessa also began to cry. After rescuing my daughter, I smiled at Noah and said, "Let's live together. Let's go to Alaska." Afterward, the voice recordings and photos served as evidence, and Daniel and his parents were found guilty of imprisoning my daughter in the basement. Also, the other servants who had harassed Vanessa lost their jobs when their masters were gone and seemed to be having a hard time. By the way, Richard, anticipating this outcome, had already found his next job and is enjoying his new life. Meanwhile, my daughter and I fought in court to claim $50,000 in damages from Daniel and his parents, plus child support for Noah, and we successfully won the case. Now, the three of us, myself, Vanessa, and Noah, are living peacefully and happily in our home in Alaska.